In the 3rd year of our marriage, Miranda came back. For the first time. Sam didn't come home for dinner. He grabbed his coat and went straight to the airport. That night, he didn't return. I followed Sam's follower list on Weibo and found Miranda. I casually refreshed the page, and Miranda had just updated her Weibo. Finally back home, my love and my friends are all by my side. In the attached photo, Sam was looking into the camera cooperating with Miranda, surrounded by Sam's group of friends. I closed my phone, closed my eyes, and closed my heart as well. Chapter 1. After work, I had dinner outside, then walked along the riverside for a while before driving home. Light spilled from the windows. Sam was already back. I opened the door and stood at the entryway to change shoes. In a rare gesture, Sam walked over, took my coat and bag, and hung them on the rack. "Why are you back so late today? I called you but you didn't answer. I asked your assistant. She said you'd gotten off work long ago." He paused. "Have you eaten?" "I cooked." These were the things I usually did. These were the words I usually said. Today, he was the one saying them. I reached out and cut him off. "I'm tired. I have something early tomorrow. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight." As I passed by the living room, I saw the dining table set with a circle of dishes and even candles. What was this supposed to be? Feeling guilty about being with Miranda last night. So now he wanted to compensate me? Disgusting. I pushed open the guest room door. Sam stopped me. "Helen, what were you trying to tell me last night?" I turned around. The warm light cast shadows on his handsome face, giving him an illusion of gentleness. This face, I had looked at it for so many years, never once getting tired of it. But the moment I saw him in that intimate picture with Miranda, it became completely unrecognizable. I forgot. I lowered my eyes and walked into the room. Lying on the bed, my hand unconsciously moved to my lower abdomen. Last night at dinner, I was going to tell Sam that I was pregnant, but he answered a call, put down his chopsticks, grabbed his keys and coat, and rushed out, leaving only one sentence behind: "There's something going on at the company." I sat at the dining table quietly waiting until the dishes went cold, losing their color. A friend sent me a message: "Miranda is back." I instinctively went to Sam's Weibo, opened his following list. Following the clues, I found Miranda. 1 minute earlier, she had posted, "Finally back home. My love and my friends are all by my side." In the picture, she was leaning in Sam's arms, both looking at the camera, surrounded by Sam's friends. And these friends, after 3 years of marriage, Sam had never once introduced them to me. Every time I tried to enter his social circle, he rejected it, saying they were all bad influence buddies. Eventually, I stopped trying. Scrolling further down, I realized they had been in close contact for all these years. Miranda's school abroad was arranged by him. Her apartment abroad was under his name. Even her large overseas expenses, he paid for them. I never knew Sam's gentleness could be so easily given away to another person. That night, I threw all the food from the table into the trash and went out to feed the stray cats. Click, the guest room door opened. I turned my back to him and closed my eyes. The mattress suddenly sank behind me, and a cold draft followed. Sam crawled into the bed. My whole body stiffened, hands clenched near my chest. After a moment, a hand reached over, wrapped around my waist, and a warm chest pressed against my back. A chill shot through me, pure revulsion. I abruptly sat up and turned on the bedside lamp. With the blinding light, Sam squinted, sitting up with an ugly expression. Chapter 2. Living in the same villa district. Sam and I grew up together. Our relationship naturally happened over time. The year we graduated from high school, he confessed to me. Both of us knew it was just a formality, so we smoothly became a couple. But that same year, my father brought home a girl 1 year younger than me, his illegitimate daughter from outside, and my mother had passed away less than half a year before. The gentle, refined model husband and model father of the past suddenly became a mask-wearing demon in my eyes. I had a huge fight with him, telling him that if Miranda stayed in this house, then I wouldn't, and if I stayed, then Miranda couldn't. He only looked at me with a cold face, sweeping a stern glance at me. Whatever. I left with the money my mother had left me, packed a few clothes, and left home. I applied for a dorm room at school and never had any contact with that home again. A year later, Miranda entered my university thanks to a building donated by my father. She smiled sweetly on the surface but used petty tricks behind my back, stirring up conflict between me and my classmates and friends. She even used my father's connections to bring in sponsors and pushed me out of the student union. Then she arrogantly came to show off in front of me. I never cared about these things, because anything, or anyone, that could be taken away wasn't worthy of me. There were always people by my side that she could never take away, no matter what she did. For example, Sam. Miranda pestered Sam again and again, even publicly confessing her feelings to him. She befriended the people around him to track his moves. Then she intentionally appeared in classrooms, cafeterias, stadiums, student clubs, coincidentally bumping into Sam everywhere. On Weibo, she wrote her secret crush diary, detailing every emotional fluctuation of her one-sided love. Every little thing Sam did became a reason for her girlish heart to flutter. She was like a moth, no matter how blazing the fire was. She still threw herself at it for that tiny bit of light. Sam complained to me many times about Miranda's crazy behavior. He even told her to get lost directly in public with a dark expression. He wished he could stay 10,000 miles away from Miranda. But Miranda was like an indestructible cockroach and an unshakable fly. All 3 years of university, she kept circling around us. I even thought Miranda truly loved Sam deeply. Until one day, Miranda came to me and said that Sam would fall in love with her sooner or later, and then betray me. I dismissed her claim. Everyone could tell how much Sam loved me. When he saw I lived in the dorm, he immediately rented an apartment off campus for me to move into. 3 meals a day. He wished he could eat every meal with me. I loved the sweet osmanthus rice cakes from the south of the city, but they were always limited and sold out quickly. He, someone raised in wealth and comfort, got up early to wait in line for me. When he handed the rice cakes to me, they were still warm. We both loved traveling, but I was naturally lazy and bad at planning, so he handled everything: booking hotels, planning attractions, buying tickets, packing luggage. I only needed to follow him. We grew up together. We had too many shared memories. I never believed he would betray me. After our senior year, Miranda went abroad to study. I thought the story between Sam and Miranda had already ended. But unexpectedly, through Miranda's Weibo, I saw a different timeline of events. In the 3rd year of her clinging to Sam, Sam's attitude toward her changed. Chapter 3. I reached out and pulled open the curtains of the guest room. Outside, the night was hazy. Not a single star in sight. Sam sat silently on the bed, not saying a word. After a long time, he finally lost patience. His voice carried a trace of irritation. "What on earth is wrong with you?" He had tolerated this much only because of that tiny bit of guilt he felt. That was already remarkable for him. Ever since we got married and his company grew bigger and bigger, his temper also grew with it. He hadn't coaxed me like this in a long time. If it were before, I would have softened by now, thinking about how hard he worked. But now, I no longer want to endure anything from anyone. I turned around and leaned against the window. "Last night, who were you with?" "I already told you something happened at the company. Who else could I be with?" "When did you learn to be this paranoid?" I looked at him calmly, without saying a word. I always believed he was devoted to me, an honorable man with principles. I never questioned his schedule, always giving him plenty of space, but he always took the initiative to explain everything. Then he would cling to me, insisting I pack his luggage. Yet in the end, he carried the luggage I had carefully prepared, and boarded the plane to go see Miranda. A flash of guilt crossed his face, but he quickly concealed it, his arrogance rising instead. "So you're checking up on me now? Should I call in everyone from the company and let you investigate?" "No need. You can leave. I want to rest." He would never admit it. He'd hidden it from me for so many years. How could he let everything collapse so easily? I also had no intention of getting into a confrontation with him. His cheating and betrayal were indeed a thorn in my heart. After all, after so many years of love, of course I'm hurt, but reason tells me that rather than being kept in the dark forever, it's better to know the truth now. Cutting things off cleanly is the best strategy. Unable to stand my coldness, Sam's face darkened. He slammed the door and left. After the disturbance, I had no more desire to sleep. I opened my computer to handle the company's pending tasks. When I graduated from university, my father called and begged me to come home. He had brain cancer, hospitalized, and didn't have much time left. When I arrived at the hospital, he was struggling to get up to pour himself water. He was so thin he was barely recognizable. The butler said something had gone wrong with the company, and he had been working day and night. Due to long-term exhaustion, he collapsed in his office. By the time he was taken to the hospital, it was already late stage. All my resentment seemed to dissipate in the face of life and death. I started remembering those joyful moments from childhood. He would lift me up and sit me on his shoulders like riding a horse. When he came home from work, he would take strange little snacks out of his suit pocket for me. When I got older and his workload wasn't heavy, he would cook a pot of rich fish soup for me himself. He wronged my mother, but he had indeed loved me deeply. I took over the unstable company, running back and forth between the company and the hospital, and Miranda, ever since she went abroad, no longer had any trace of her presence. Chapter 4. Early the next morning, I changed clothes and left the bedroom, not wanting to run into Sam. But things never go as planned. The moment I stepped out, Sam was placing porridge on the dining table. He acted as if he had completely forgotten yesterday's conflict and unpleasantness. With a smile, he urged me to hurry and have breakfast. Saying that, he walked over and pulled a watch out of his pocket. It was specially customized by a master watchmaker at his request. For the past 3 years, he had given me one every year, all to cover the long scar running across my left wrist. Before our marriage, Sam and I had gone to inspect a project. The destination was a remote mountain village. On the way back, the car's brakes failed, and we hit a steep slope, the car rushing downward. Luckily, a big tree stopped us, otherwise the car might have rolled over into a ditch. The driver's side crashed into the trunk, and Sam fainted instantly. My door was jammed, so I had to grab a tablet, smash the window, and climb out. Sam was slumped over the steering wheel, blood all over his face. The situation was urgent. I grabbed both our phones, wanting to call an ambulance, but both had turned into useless bricks. While dragging Sam out of the car, my left hand hit the door. The torn metal pierced my flesh, leaving this scar. Because of my physical condition, the scar could never be removed. It would stay forever. There was no one on the mountain path at noon. I had no choice but to carry him, drag him, fall and get up again and again until I reached the main road. Someone passing by helped call an ambulance, and I collapsed on the ground from exhaustion. When I woke up, Sam was leaning over the hospital bed, his eyes bloodshot. After being discharged, he proposed to me. Back then, I was so confident in our relationship. It never crossed my mind that his proposal might come not from love, but from guilt. I removed the watch on my hand, and he instinctively helped me put on the new one. Avoiding his hand, I gently touched the uneven flesh. No need. I won't wear it anymore. His hand holding the watch paused. Why? I don't like it. Sam was stunned. I never liked wearing watches. They felt like shackles, always binding me. If it hadn't been custom-made through his effort, I would never have worn it. Now, there was even less reason to. I stuffed the old watch into his hand and walked to the foyer to put on my coat. Helen. I looked back. Sam's expression was complicated, like he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. How about I pick you up after work today? I rolled my eyes, opened the door and left. Chapter 5. At the company, my assistant was acting somewhat unusual today, fidgeting beside me for a long while. It wasn't until the elevator reached the floor of my office that she finally opened her mouth hesitantly. Boss, Nestor is waiting for you in your office. Nestor was one of the major shareholders of the company, and someone my father had trusted deeply. My assistant shouldn't be acting like this. There had to be something more. I nodded, signaling that I understood. I pushed open the office door. Nestor was standing in front of my desk, while in my chair sat Miranda. A mocking smile curled at Miranda's lips. Sis, I'm back. Aren't you going to welcome me? You didn't even come back to see Dad one last time before he died. Now you show up for what? Miranda picked up the photo of me on my desk, studied it for a couple of seconds, then loosened her fingers. The frame crashed to the floor and shattered into pieces. With a strange, malicious expression, she walked up to me. I wanted to come back too, but Dad told me that unless Nestor notified me, I wasn't allowed to return. Nestor smiled kindly and gestured for me to sit on the sofa, as if I were the outsider here. Helen, before your father passed away, he entrusted me with a will, instructing me to reveal it only after the company returned to stable growth. Now that the company is thriving, it's time. Your father had only you and Miranda. Considering that Miranda wasn't by his side growing up, he decided to let her inherit the company. As for you, you will inherit the old family house and 5% of the company's shares. The office heater was on, yet I felt a chill creeping up my spine. My body sensed the pain and humiliation even before my mind caught up. I stared at Nestor's moving mouth, but I couldn't hear a thing. Mechanically, I took the will. The handwriting was his. Miranda pulled out a voice recorder from who knows where, eyes filled with malice, and pressed play. The company is in bad shape. Study hard abroad and don't come back. Nestor will transfer money to your card. Once your sister gets the company back on track, he'll tell you when to return and inherit it. If the company ends up failing, then don't ever come back. As long as you stay away, the debt collectors won't find you, and the money I left you will be enough for a lifetime. When I'm gone, you must learn to live well. Find someone who truly loves you. Before he died, my father held my hand and told me the company was his and my mother's life's work. He begged me to revive it, and I promised him. For that promise, I ran around pulling in business and investments, doing the work of practically 2 people, at countless drinking tables, bowing my head and swallowing every humiliation, navigating demons and parasites in the business world, drinking until I ended up in the ER, then handling work while hooked to N4. After countless days and nights of struggle, I finally pulled the company back from the brink of death, and now someone tells me that everything I held onto, all of it, was just a joke. So a dying man's words are kind isn't always true. I rushed to the bathroom and calmed myself for a long time before my shaking hands finally stopped. Returning to the office, I was completely composed. Convert the 5% shares into cash based on today's valuation, and all the salary, bonuses, and dividends I should have been paid over the years, transfer them to my account immediately. Miranda looked stunned, unable to believe I hadn't collapsed like she imagined. Nestor froze for a few seconds. That can't be done today. It needs to follow procedure. You have 1 hour. You wouldn't want anything that could damage the company's reputation spreading online, would you? This company was built by my hands alone. I knew all its weaknesses like the back of my hand. If I wanted to, it wouldn't take long before the company returned to what it was years ago, on the brink of collapse. This company is the livelihood of the employees who have fought beside me all these years. I would never destroy it, but they didn't dare take that gamble. Sure enough, just a few minutes after I finished speaking, Nestor called in an employee. An hour later, I received the bank's transfer notifications. I picked up my bag and pushed the door open to leave. Behind me came an irritating voice. Helen, Sam will be mine too. I turned back to look at her flaunting expression and felt she was rather pitiful. She kept using this kind of method to prove her ability and existence. In reality, her inferiority ran to the bone. I smiled and looked at her indifferently. Whatever. Her flushed complexion slowly turned pale. Chapter 6. When I finally reached the underground parking garage, my shoulders slowly collapsed. The forced calm I had held up completely vanished. I looked at my phone and let out a bitter laugh. Right now, I was really poor to the point that money was the only thing I had left. The exhaustion from the past few years surged up all at once, dragging my powerless body. I walked to my car and opened the door, only to find someone already sitting inside. Seeing the sympathy and heartache in Sam's eyes, all I felt was that he was mocking me. My rested brain slowly turned. So this was what his words before I left home really meant. So he had long known that the company I fought tooth and nail to save would end up becoming someone else's wedding dress. I closed the car door and walked around to sit in the passenger seat. Sam placed a lunchbox in my arms, speaking softly and carefully. You definitely haven't eaten yet. It's still warm. Eat something, at least a little. Later we'll go home, take a hot shower, get a good night's sleep. After that, whether you want to rest or go back to work, we'll decide once you've slept. I remember you always wanted to pursue a graduate degree. Maybe This is a good opportunity, Sam. He stopped talking and turned slightly toward me. My dad talked to you before he died. He asked you to take care of Miranda. So it was then you learned about his plan. And after that, you watched me devote myself to the company like it was a joke. Every Valentine's Day, every Christmas, every wedding anniversary, you used work as an excuse to fly abroad to accompany Miranda. Last year, when I fainted from overworking in the office, my assistant called you but you didn't answer. At that time, you were in Iceland with Miranda watching the aurora. The night before last, when you rushed out of the house, it was to pick Miranda up from the airport. You two spent that entire night together. And you proposed to me because you felt guilty toward me, right? It felt like my soul had left my body. I watched myself calmly recount all these things, without a single hint of emotion. Sam's face grew paler and paler. Several times he opened his mouth to explain. But each time I waved him off. He didn't know when I had learned all this. From his perspective, I knew nothing, and was only sulking because he had abruptly left home that night. Somewhere deep in his subconscious, he sensed something slipping out of his control, running wildly in the opposite direction. He was growing more and more flustered, yet had no idea where to start explaining. But I wasn't seeking explanations. I just felt I couldn't be the only one in pain. My father and Sam were both people I held close to my heart. The closest people to me. And yet, it was exactly them who stabbed me in the back. Tears dropped heavily onto the lunchbox. Why did you do this to me? What right do you have? Sam panicked. He had grown up with Helen since they were children, and except for the time her mother passed away, he had never seen her cry. His heart twisted in sharp pain. Helen was the treasure he held in the palm of his hand. Yet somehow, without realizing it, he had become the one who hurt her. Sam pulled out a few tissues and tried to wipe my tears. Helen, don't cry. It's all my fault. Don't cry. It hurts me to see it. Whatever else Sam was saying, I couldn't hear any of it. My stomach hurt terribly, and cold sweat was breaking out across my forehead. I bent forward, my fingernails digging tightly into the lid of the lunchbox. Then, I suddenly felt warmth spreading beneath me. Sam noticed that something was wrong and hurriedly leaned over to check on me. He ran his fingers across the car seat, and they came away covered in blood. He was completely frantic as he started the car. Helen, we're going to the hospital. Just hold on a little longer. Chapter 7. Sam carried me into the hospital, and a nurse pushed a gurney over to take me away. Sam walked beside the gurney, gripping my hand tightly. Helen, hold on, you'll be okay, you'll be okay. He repeated it over and over, and I couldn't tell whether he was comforting me or trying desperately to calm himself. The doors of the operating room closed. Through the small gap before they shut completely, I saw him sliding slowly down the wall. The anesthesiologist injected the medication into my body. My consciousness faded. When I woke up, it was already night. The heavy smell of disinfectant made me frown. The lights were harsh. It took a while before I could fully open my eyes. Sam stood by the door with his phone pressed to his ear, talking to someone. Suddenly, he looked toward me, and our eyes met. He hung up immediately and hurried to my bedside, his expression urgent. Following my gaze, he noticed the cup on the table and quickly poured hot water. He raised the head of the bed, helping me sit up, then held the cup to my lips. I drank a few sips with his support, easing the dryness in my throat. Is the baby gone? My hand moved over my stomach as I looked at him helplessly. After discovering Sam's affair, I hadn't yet figured out what to do about this child. But with every drop of blood I lost, I could clearly feel the little life drifting farther and farther away. A strange, crushing sorrow filled my chest. It was followed by anger, helplessness, heartbreak. I pushed Sam away, and the water splashed all over him. My voice echoed distortedly in the empty hospital room. It's all your fault. You two killed him. I grabbed Sam's collar, glaring at him with venom. Sam, you killed your own child. You personally killed him. Tears burst uncontrollably from my eyes. My chest heaved violently, and I could barely breathe. Sam's eyes were bloodshot. He grabbed my arms. I'm sorry. It's my fault. We can still have another child. I threw the cup at his forehead, He ignored the blood trickling down his face and forcefully pulled me into his arms. Helen, calm down. He pressed the call button. A nurse entered with a tray and gave me a sedative. Her health was already weak. A miscarriage caused by severe emotional shock can be dangerous. She must rest well now, no more extreme emotional stress. You're her husband, right? Go to the doctor and get the instructions. Sam tucked the blanket around me securely, then left the room, closing the door gently. About 10 minutes later, he came back in with white gauze taped to his forehead, carrying a bag of medication and a thermal lunchbox. He sat down quietly. Sam, I said, let's get a divorce. Chapter 8. Sam didn't agree. After that day, he never showed up again. The nanny who had taken care of me since childhood, Aunt Monica, handled the discharge procedures at the hospital. She practically confined me at home and made me rest for an entire month. I was so bored I felt like grass would start growing on my head. Miranda, on the other hand, bothered me from time to time. If it wasn't a photo of her with Sam, it was a picture of her newly decorated office. Sometimes, she even came directly to the old house, standing beside my bed to mock me for being a fake heiress, claiming that everything had been stolen away by her anyway. Monica rushed out holding a frying pan, cursing as she chased her away. After that, she upgraded the security system and hired several guards. The old house was sealed up like a fortress, not giving Miranda the slightest chance to get close. With the daily gourmet meals she fed me, my weight increased by 10 pounds. Standing in front of the full-length mirror, staring at my little belly, I fell silent. Then I turned around and rushed into the gym inside the house. But Monica heard the noise and yelled at me to get out. I could only touch my nose sheepishly as she locked the room with a key. She glared at me while wrapping the key in layers of cloth and stuffing it into her inner pocket. In this peaceful and leisurely month, I slowly let go of much of my sadness. Once I passed Monica's inspection in all categories, I finally regained the right to go out freely. The first thing I did was have the lawyer draft a divorce agreement. The second thing was to go to our previous home and pack my belongings. I pushed the door open, and the harsh smell of alcohol rushed out. I frowned in disgust and immediately saw Sam sitting among piles of empty bottles. He must have taken out every bottle of liquor he had hidden. When he saw me come in, his gaze was blurry. He slowly crawled up from the floor. He staggered toward me, lowered his head, and reached out to touch my face. He was too close. His scorching breath mixed with the heavy smell of alcohol made me slap his hand away. He let out a bitter laugh, mumbling to himself, "So this is another dream. I don't dare go see you. Luckily, you're willing to come into my dreams. Helen, I'm sorry. I missed you so much." As he spoke, he leaned forward to hug me. I grabbed a glass of cold water from the table and splashed it directly on his face. Water dripped down his hair. His confused eyes gradually turned clear. I took out the divorce agreement from my bag and placed it on the table. The moment he saw the bold words on the cover page, his pupils shrank sharply. I walked straight into the bedroom, pulled out a suitcase, and packed the important things inside. He followed behind me, his voice stubborn. "I won't divorce." After a pause, he continued, "Miranda and I are not what you think. I didn't cheat. She kept clinging to me. At first, I was annoyed. Then I slowly felt sorry for her, and gradually we kept in touch. After graduation, you were always buried in the company. Sometimes we didn't even meet once a month. I was lonely. Miranda was just a distraction. I only hung out with her. I never crossed any lines. I knew about your father's will. I didn't intend to help them. I just thought that without the company, we'd finally have time to truly be together. I know I've made many mistakes, but I really love you. Helen, you said you would never leave me." My hand paused over the zipper. Sam's parents died early, and he was raised by his grandfather. His grandfather came from the military, later entered business, built a successful career, and was very strict with the younger generation. After Sam's parents died, his grandfather returned to take charge of the company and became even stricter with Sam. Once, after an argument with his grandfather, Sam ran away from home. I found him in a corner of an amusement park. A heavy rain had just passed. He was soaked and curled up beside a treehouse. When he saw me, those dark eyes stared at me without blinking, like a small abandoned dog. He said that after his parents died, No one stayed with him anymore. His grandfather only cared about work and punished him harshly for even minor mistakes. After venting, he looked at me seriously. The driver said everyone dies. Grandpa will die one day too. Then I'll have no family left. Looking at such a fragile Sam, something in me erupted, a fierce need to protect him. I promised him with complete conviction, Sam, I will never leave you. And I did. But the man he is now is no longer worthy of that promise. Chapter 9. With just a few quick movements, I set the suitcase upright and pulled out the handle. Sam, that was a promise I made to the old you. The you now doesn't deserve it. I picked up the suitcase and was about to leave when he grabbed the corner of my shirt. It felt just like that day he ran away from home as a child. Helen, we've been together for so many years. It shouldn't end like this. Give me another chance, okay? Haven't you always wanted to see the northern snow? Winter is almost here. We can go to Qingdao, okay? I stepped to the side, letting the corner of my shirt slip out of his fingers. He stared in a daze, then suddenly slammed his fist into the wall beside him, fury flooding his expression. At that moment, the door opened, and Miranda walked in. When she saw Sam's bloodied hand, shock and distress tears filled her eyes. She rushed over and grabbed Sam's injured hand, only to have Sam fling her away violently. Her lips trembled, and tears streamed down her face like broken beads. Sam, I just felt bad seeing you hurt. She stood helplessly aside, looking as though his rejection had shattered her heart. But Sam's eyes were full of wariness. How did you know my home's password? Last time you got drunk, I brought you back. You told me the password yourself. So that's how those photos were taken. I nodded slowly, understanding. Miranda met my gaze, and seeing what I was thinking, she shot me a glare sharp as a needle. I simply shrugged indifferently. Sam closed his eyes briefly, then walked over and pressed down on my suitcase. Helen, I was drunk. I didn't give her the password on purpose. My eyes shifted, revealing just the right amount of doubt. Really? But Miranda said you're hers, that I'm the one who lost. So you two weren't already living together? I said, I've loved only you from beginning to end. You were just too busy before. She kept clinging to me, and she looks a little like you. So I got distracted. Sam held my hand, looking at me with genuine sincerity, not giving Miranda even a fraction of attention. Helen, you can do anything to me, just don't leave me, please? Miranda stood there in disbelief. Maybe at first, she clung to Sam to get revenge on me, but after all this time, she had stepped too deep into the game. She loved Sam. Her eyes lit up whenever she looked at him. So when she realized Sam completely disregarded her, of course it hurt. Sam, you flew abroad so many times to spend holidays with me. You took me traveling. You even paid for my tuition. When I came back, you picked me up and brought me to your friend's gathering. You stayed with me the whole night. How could it be just because I look like her? She clung to Sam's arm, pleading, you do like me, right? Sam looked at her coldly and shook off her hand. I picked you up only so I could clarify things with my brothers, that this matter is already over. I didn't want Helen to know you existed. I told you from the beginning, I needed your time and your face. In exchange, I'd give you money and resources. Miranda's gaze wavered, her expression hollow. Ha ha ha, exchange. Yes, I know it was an exchange. It was an exchange. After spending so much time with him, she had completely immersed herself in the fantasy. She forgot the terms they started with, or perhaps she thought those terms no longer applied. But Sam had always been clear-headed. No wonder he never touched her. She thought it was because he cherished her, didn't want to treat her casually. All the romantic fantasies she had built were just her own delusions. She had worked so hard, schemed so much, poured everything into him, and still, she couldn't beat Helen. But why? Why did they all love Helen? She looked at Sam and saw his gaze firmly fixed on Helen, filled with gentleness and caution. When had he ever been this humble? Around her, he had always been relaxed and careless. She had thought that this unguarded version of him meant he saw her as someone important, but she never realized he was casual only because he never cared. He had never liked her, not even a little. She lost. Chapter 10. When Miranda left, she didn't close the door. A gust of wind swept through the hallway, sending a chill through me. I looked around the place I had lived in for 7 or 8 years. Those memories of happiness and joy surged up like a tide. I looked at the man I had loved for so many years and said calmly, "We should part ways peacefully. No need to make things ugly." He let out a bitter laugh. "But I don't want to part peacefully." I went to Kyoto alone. The forbidden city under heavy snow, red and white intertwined, was like an ink painting, full of charm. In the snow-filled alleys, I felt as though I had gone back to my childhood. Back then, I spent New Year's at my grandfather's house with my mom. On the snowy New Year's Eve, Grandpa carried a shovel outside and built a strange-looking snowman for me. I even cried while tugging at his sleeve because the snowman was too ugly. Now, I want to build another snowman like that. But the old man who used to throw snowballs at me is no longer here. After drifting around Kyoto for a month, I flew to Qingdao. I bought a house by the sea. At night, I fell asleep to the sound of waves. In the morning, I opened the window, stepped onto the balcony, and saw the vast ocean. When it snowed, the entire beach was covered in white. From afar, the world seemed to have only 2 colors, white and blue. Walking along the beach in boots, the snow crunched under my feet, the waves rolling with grains of snow. The wind stung my cheeks, but my mind felt clear again. The world was so big. On my way home, I passed by a flower shop and bought a bouquet of tulips. In this white world, a touch of yellow added so much life. Holding the bouquet, I walked lightly toward home. Outside my door, I saw Sam, someone I hadn't seen in a long time. He leaned against the railing, holding a bouquet of bright red roses. With the endless sea behind him, he had lost a lot of weight. His eyes were bright, almost hungry as he looked at me. "Helen, you look much better. Since you left, I've thought a lot. I can't stand days without you. I want to chase you again." After so many years together, he thought I wouldn't bear to give up our relationship. He believed that as long as he tried hard enough, was sincere enough, he could mend the cracks, go back to how things were, as if nothing had ever happened. But what he didn't know was, no matter how you patch up a crack, there will always be scars. Even if we forced ourselves to reconcile, everything that happened would become mines buried around us, waiting to explode. Snowflakes floated down, landing on the roses, making the petals look even more vivid and delicate. But unfortunately, I only like tulips now. I didn't let him inside. His eyelids trembled, and the confidence he had painstakingly built collapsed instantly. He must have already known I wouldn't agree before he came. But he ignored my rejection, relying on money and influence, and bought the house next door. Blind effort with no result. I felt nothing about it, because my application for a master's program at the University of Hong Kong was approved. In a few days, I would be flying straight to Hong Kong. Chapter 11. The day before my departure, Sam knocked on my door. "Helen, do I really not have even the slightest chance?" His eyes were filled with desolation. As he spoke, tears suddenly fell. "It's all my fault. If I hadn't done those things, we would have been fine now. I wouldn't have lost you. I was the one who pushed you away with my own hands." I cut him off coldly. "Did you sign the divorce papers? As for who's right or wrong, keep that explanation for yourself. I don't want to hear it." With a loud bang, I shut the door in his face. The next day, when I stepped out, I saw a document envelope at my door, and the house next door was already empty. After finishing my postgraduate studies, I returned to Haishur and moved back into the old residence. During a gathering with old friends, I heard about Miranda's current situation. After discovering that Sam had never loved her, she seemed to have lost her mind. She refused to accept anything that had even a trace of me. The capable employees I had trained in the company were dismissed by her through every possible scheme. The development blueprint I had planned for the company was completely overturned by her. Now the company was even worse than when I first took over. If she had just chosen to be a salted fish president and let the company run as usual, it could have stayed profitable for nearly 10 years. She played a perfectly good hand to utter disaster. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. I was recommended by the University of Hong Kong to pursue a PhD at a university in Kyoto. After spending some time accompanying Monica in the old residence, it was time for me to set off again.